They say silence is golden, but when it comes from her, it's warfare. You see, most men misread quietness as disinterest. They think if she's not laughing at his jokes, not touching his arm, not texting him first, then she must not care. But what if I told you the opposite is true? What if her silence, her subtle distance, her calculated pauses are not signs of disinterest, but signals of control? You were taught to look for obvious signs, big smiles, obvious compliments, body language leaning in. But those are surface-level plays. The real attraction, the raw instinctive pull, lives underground in the realm of subtle emotional strategy. When a woman is truly intrigued, she doesn't show it. She hides it. She lets it slip through inconsistency. Why? Because real desire makes people vulnerable, and vulnerability is weakness in the game of power. So what does she do? She masks interest with indifference, curiosity with challenge, and testing becomes her love language. And most men fail the test because they look for affection in the obvious. They want her to say, "I like you." But the women who are into you the most, they never say it. Instead, they make you prove yourself by not proving anything at all. They watch how you react when you don't get validation. They notice if your confidence collapses in silence. They're not waiting for you to impress. They're watching to see if you bend. This isn't flirtation. It's a hidden war. And if you want to win, you don't charge in. You observe, you stay still. Because in this game, the one who moves first usually loses. And that's where the first sign begins, not with what she does, but what she deliberately withholds. So the question is, are you seeing her silence as rejection, or are you sharp enough to see it as a test? Because that's the difference between a man who gets ghosted and a man who gets chased. And speaking of tests, let's break down the first real one, the one most men fail without even realizing it. The first test doesn't come wrapped in flirtation. It's not a compliment. It's not a giggle. It's a challenge, and most men completely miss it because they're looking for signs that feel good instead of signs that reveal truth. Here's what no one tells you: when a woman is secretly into you, she won't make it easy. She'll disagree with you just to see if you stand firm. She'll tease you, push you, or even ignore you momentarily, not to reject you, but to provoke a reaction. Why? Because she's not interested in how much you want her. She's interested in how much you want yourself. Women don't flirt with the men they're testing. They test the men they're drawn to. She wants to see your frame, your poise, your inner weight. Because if she can shake you with a glance, a sarcastic comment, or a cold moment, then you weren't worth her curiosity to begin with. That's the paradox most men never grasp. They think conflict is a sign to back off. But for women, small tension is often a sign of deep curiosity. She disagrees not to debate, but to see if you can handle resistance. She delays not to hurt, but to measure your emotional steadiness. And when you get reactive, defensive, or try to fix the vibe, you fail the unspoken test. Because what she's really asking is this: will you lose yourself to win me? And if the answer is yes, you've already lost. But if you stay calm, unbothered, stoic in the face of her emotional waves, you've just triggered something primal. Now you're no longer just another guy. You're the frame she can't shake. That's why women are drawn to mystery, not comfort, challenge, not praise, stillness, not performance. The ones who pass these tests never even realize they were being tested. They weren't trying to win her. They were simply too grounded to be moved. And that's the first real signal. When she starts testing you, she's not pushing you away. She's trying to find out if you're strong enough to pull her in. And if you pass that test, what happens next might confuse you even more, because the next sign comes not when she speaks, but when she pauses, when the energy shifts, when she pulls back, and you wonder why. But that pause, that delay, is exactly where the second signal hides. You've seen it before. She was engaged, playful, responsive, and then suddenly, she isn't. Her replies get shorter, the timing changes, the energy dips. Most men feel panic rise in their chest. They think she's losing interest. But a man who sees with stoic clarity knows this is not a disappearance. It's a signal. And it's one of the most misunderstood signs of all. When a woman is secretly into you, she won't always lean in. Sometimes she pulls back, not because she wants to leave, but because she needs to feel your presence without needing to chase it. This is the second hidden sign: delayed response, not just in messages, but in energy. It's the pause that makes you wonder. It's designed to see what you do with uncertainty. Women are drawn to men who can sit with ambiguity, who don't panic at distance, who understand that real connection doesn't require constant contact, it requires emotional steadiness. When she pauses, she's not just buying time. She's watching if you double text, watching if your tone shifts, watching if you lose your center when hers drifts. Because here's the truth: attention is not the test. Reaction is. She wants to see what you do when you feel her slipping. Will you chase her to feel reassured? Or will you stay still and let her come back to you? The Stoic man never reacts to delay. He lets it happen. He welcomes space. Because he knows that if she's truly drawn, she will return. And when she does, she'll return different, more curious, more invested. Because distance amplifies desire. Mystery sharpens interest. And the man who doesn't demand her time becomes the one she can't ignore. So the next time you feel her energy shift, don't fill the silence. Let it echo. Let her wonder if you even noticed. Let her question why she's the one checking your profile, rereading the last message, analyzing your calm. Because that's when attraction deepens, when the silence doesn't shake you, it defines you. And once she feels your stillness, she'll try something new. She'll stop being silent. She'll start provoking, but not with distance this time, with conflict. And that shift from quiet to confrontation is no accident. It's the third signal, but only if you know how to read it. It starts subtly, a disagreement over something small, a sarcastic remark, a sudden shift in tone. Most men take this at face value and assume she's losing interest, that the vibe has turned. But the truth is far more complex and far more powerful. When a woman begins to challenge your ideas, poke fun at your opinions, or even contradict you in a playful way, she's not trying to push you away. She's pulling tension into the space between you. This is the third hidden sign: purposeful disagreement. She wants to feel something from you, and challenge is her way of stirring it. You see, attraction is not born from agreement. It's born from energy, polarity, and spark. And spark doesn't happen when everything is smooth. It happens when two minds clash just enough to feel alive. That's why she'll disagree with you, not to be right, but to feel your presence push back with strength. And if you fold, if you try to appease, if you shift your stance just to please her, she'll sense the weakness immediately. Because now she knows you fear her disapproval more than you value your own truth. But if you hold your position, not aggressively, not to dominate, but with calm certainty, you become rare. You become someone she can't mold, can't predict, can't easily manipulate. And that's what makes her pulse quicken. Not the agreement, but the resistance. The unmovable center. The man who can disagree without breaking the connection is the man who becomes unforgettable. And when you respond with grounded calm, when you smile instead of flinch, when you tease her disagreement instead of defending yourself, you shift the dynamic completely. You become the mountain in her storm. And here's the twist: if she didn't care, she wouldn't challenge. She would ignore. The moment she starts debating, she's emotionally investing. She's opening up in a way she can deny to herself, but not to her biology. It's primal. It's subconscious. And when you pass this test, when you don't crumble under emotional tension, she starts to wonder, who is this man who doesn't react, who stays unshaken? That curiosity leads her deeper, and from that moment on, her attention sharpens. But it won't stop at disagreement, because if you pass that test, she'll take it further. She'll begin to shift energy, change rhythm, and mirror your calm. And in that shift lies the next sign, one that most men overlook, but the wise man, the Stoic man, knows exactly what it means. At first, it feels random. One moment, she's matching your energy, mirroring your posture, echoing your pace. The next, she's pulling back, breaking rhythm, becoming unpredictable. Most men take this as a red flag, but it's far from rejection. It's a calculated reveal, and it's the fourth hidden sign. When a woman mirrors you and then suddenly disrupts that flow, she's watching how you handle emotional inconsistency. She's seeing if your calm was real or just a tactic. In psychology, mirroring is an unconscious sign of rapport. When she mirrors, it means she's engaged. But when she intentionally breaks that pattern, goes cold, distracts herself, shifts her tone, it's not detachment. It's data collection. She wants to know if you chase the feeling she just withdrew. If you panic, she wins. If you try to bring the vibe back, to get her to laugh again, lean in again, smile again, you've shown your hand. And now she knows you were attached to the response, not rooted in presence. But if you stay the course, unfazed, relaxed in the face of that shift, she starts to lean back in, but this time with deeper respect. Because you're not here for validation. You're not emotionally dependent on outcome. You are steady with or without her approval. That's when her curiosity turns into attraction. And here's where it gets interesting. She may not even understand why she's pulled toward you more intensely after breaking rapport. But her nervous system does. It's recognizing emotional leadership, and women are biologically drawn to men who don't react, who stay in frame, who feel like the world doesn't move them. This is where Stoicism becomes not just philosophy, but magnetism. She's not looking for your words. She's feeling your frequency, and if you can hold your center when hers shifts, you become unforgettable. Because now, she doesn't just notice you, she feels a gravitational pull she can't explain. And just as she starts to fall into that mystery, the question surfaces, what makes you so still? That's where we bring in the wisdom of the ancients. Because the men who mastered this stillness weren't seduction experts. They were philosophers, and they understood a truth that most men today have forgotten. The ancient Stoics didn't study attraction, but they understood something deeper, something timeless. They studied power, inner command, the kind of self-mastery that bends reality. And in today's world, that kind of man stands out not because of what he says, but because of what he doesn't need to say. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, but it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That's what she feels when you don't react. That's what stirs her instincts when you remain composed in chaos. You become the cliff. Epictetus warned against becoming a puppet to every impulse. And that's exactly what most men have become, slaves to reactions, to validation, to feminine energy they don't understand. But the Stoic man doesn't chase her. He doesn't even chase the moment. He is the moment. When a woman senses that she doesn't just see confidence, she feels inevitability. And here's the irony, the less you try to impress her, the more impressed she becomes. Because you're not performing, you're embodying. Your calm isn't an act, it's a lifestyle. And that presence is ancient. It carries the weight of 1,000 years of men who stood their ground through war, exile, rejection, and death. So when she sees you brush off her tests, when she watches you not flinch under pressure, her body responds before her mind catches up. It's evolution, it's instinct, and no pickup line can replicate that. This is where most men fail. They try to be interesting, they try to be funny. But a Stoic man knows interesting is forgettable. Unmoved is unforgettable. She'll forget your clever lines, but she won't forget how calm you were when the world turned chaotic. She won't forget how you smiled when she got cold, how you leaned back when she leaned in too far. Because that's not something you do, it's who you are. The man who doesn't chase is the man she starts chasing. And once you become that man, something shifts. She stops talking about who you are and starts talking about how you make her feel. But she won't say it outright. She'll say it through behavior, through contradictions, mixed signals, and subtle clues. And those inconsistencies, that's where the next signal hides. Hidden not in logic, but in the beautiful chaos of emotional contradiction. She'll say one thing, then do another. She'll claim she's not looking for anything serious, then show up wearing her best dress. She'll tell you she's unsure, but lean in closer when she speaks. These contradictions aren't mistakes. They're signals. This is the seventh hidden signs, the split between her words and her actions. And it's one of the clearest signs she's into you, if you know how to read it. Most men fall for the words. They take everything literally, but women communicate desire in layers. What she says is often a protective story. What she does is the truth beneath it. Her mouth may say you're just a friend, but her body leans in, her eyes linger, her laughter comes too easily. That's not logic. That's emotion leaking through the cracks. You see, attraction doesn't move in straight lines. It weaves, it loops, it contradicts. And a woman in emotional conflict is often a woman in emotional investment. When she starts sending mixed signals, when her actions don't align with her statements, she's revealing a deeper internal tension. That tension only exists when she's drawn toward you, but unsure if you're the man strong enough to hold it. And this is where most guys screw up. They try to fix it. They ask for clarity. They push for labels. But the Stoic man doesn't decode words, he reads patterns. He lets her contradictions exist without needing to resolve them. Because he knows her inconsistency isn't a threat. It's a revelation. It means she's emotionally disrupted, and disruption means you've made impact. When a woman feels conflicted around you, when she can't quite put you in a box, she thinks about you more. And that thinking, those late-night loops of uncertainty, that's what turns interest into craving. But only if you don't chase. Only if you stay still in her emotional storm. Because the moment you try to fix it, you give her the power back, and the pull fades. So let her contradict herself. Let her be warm and cold, clear and confusing. Your job is not to interpret. Your job is to stay centered. And when she realizes that her chaos doesn't rattle you, that her confusion doesn't make you flinch, she starts to shift. She starts to question who's really leading this dance. That's when she leans in. That's when her guard begins to drop. But only if you've done the one thing most men are too afraid to do: stop chasing. And the man who stops chasing becomes the man she tries to figure out. Which leads us to the next sign, not something she says, not something she hides, but something she does when she thinks you're not watching. She thinks you're not paying attention, that you didn't notice how her posture changed when you walked in, how she lingered a little longer near your space, how her voice softened just slightly when she said your name. These are signals, not accidents, and they only appear when she feels the one thing most men never give her: space. This is the eighth hidden sign, when she begins to initiate in subtle, unconscious ways after you've stopped chasing. Most men never get here. They're too busy filling the silence, validating every moment, proving their worth before she's even asked. But the man who walks the path of Stoicism knows that silence is a message, and space is power. He doesn't rush to fill the gap. He lets it widen. Because the gap is where curiosity grows. The man who doesn't chase becomes the question in her mind, and when she starts wondering about you, what you're thinking, why you didn't text first, how you can be so calm when she's used to men scrambling, her attention turns inward. That's when she starts signaling. Not directly, but instinctively. She laughs louder when you're near. She positions herself closer. She brings up things you've said, even in front of others. These are not coincidences. They are the behaviors of a woman who is trying to stay in your orbit without losing face. And they only emerge when you've stopped orbiting her. But here's the catch. If you chase now, it dies. The spell breaks. Because your stillness was the tension. Your absence was the gravity. And if you rush to fill the gap, she's just beginning to notice. She no longer needs to wonder. Mystery dissolves. Curiosity fades. And so does the pull. That's why the strongest move is to do nothing. To let her signal. To let her feel the weight of your calm presence, even in absence. You don't need to step in. You don't need to confirm. Because your lack of pursuit becomes its own kind of pursuit. One she can feel but can't control. And the moment she starts subtly signaling for your validation, the moment she adjusts herself to gain your attention, the power dynamic has flipped. Now, she's trying to be chosen. She's not chasing you with words, she's drawing you in with effort. And when you see this shift, when you spot the moment she starts to prove herself without realizing it, you've entered rare territory. Because now, she's not trying to get your attention, she's trying to hold it. And from this point forward, every move she makes is about earning the presence of a man who never needed her attention to begin with. Which brings us to the 9th sign, and it's not subtle. It's when she starts doing the one thing she swore she'd never do: seek your approval. You won't see it all at once. It starts in whispers, small questions, curious glances, random compliments dressed as jokes. She'll ask what you think of something she said, or if you noticed her new outfit. She might casually mention another guy, just to watch how you react. This is the 9th hidden sign, when she begins seeking your validation, but disguises it in detachment. And make no mistake, this is not manipulation. This is emotional exposure. It means the balance has shifted. It means she's invested. The woman who once seemed distant, unpredictable, untouchable, now craves a response from you, not because she's weak, but because you've become strong in her eyes. She's drawn to you not just for who you are, but for how you remain unchanged by her emotional waves. And now, she's searching for evidence that you still see her. But here's the part most men fail to recognize: this moment is fragile. If you over-confirm, if you start feeding her validation too quickly, she retreats. Because what drew her to you wasn't your attention, it was your restraint. It was the way you observed without chasing, engaged without attaching. So now your role isn't to reward her with approval, it's to deepen the frame. Respond with subtle acknowledgement, never desperation. Let her know you see her, but never let her feel she's already won you. Because the game only stays alive if she believes there's more of you to earn. That's the paradox: the moment she thinks she fully has you, the pull begins to fade. But if you remain just slightly out of reach, not distant but sovereign, her desire sharpens. And here's the truth most men never understand: when a woman seeks your approval, she's no longer in control of the dynamic. Now, she's reacting to you. She's adjusting, she's probing. Not with big moves, but with consistency. And this is where you must be more still than ever. Because now she's watching your every reaction. She's gauging whether you're still grounded or if you'll crumble under attention. But the Stoic man doesn't flinch. He doesn't rush. He stays exactly as he was before, composed, certain, unmoved. And that stillness becomes the magnet, the confirmation she never expected but can't stop chasing. And once she starts chasing it, once she's emotionally hooked, there's one final step, one shift that changes everything. It's not about her anymore. It's about you. About whether you lose your center now that you know she wants you. About whether you become reactive or remain stoic. Because the rarest sign of all is not in her behavior, it's in yours. And that's where we end this journey, with the truth most men never accept, but the ones who do never get forgotten. She likes you, maybe, maybe not. But that's not the point. The Stoic man doesn't waste a second asking questions rooted in uncertainty. He doesn't obsess over her reactions, her signals, or her approval. Because he understands the one truth that sets him free: it's not about her. It never was. The final and most important realization, the rarest signal of all, is not a behavior she gives, but a mindset you live. A Stoic man never asks, "Does she like me?" Because he's already answered the real question: am I acting in alignment with who I am? That's the frame. That's the anchor. That's what women feel even if they can't explain it. The man who is self-led, self-approved, self-defined radiates a power no woman can ignore and no man can fake. He walks into the room and doesn't scan for attention. He brings it. He speaks not to impress but to express. He moves through life with clarity, with peace, with power. And when a woman meets that energy, she either rises to meet it or disappears. He doesn't chase. He doesn't argue. He doesn't bend. He doesn't need a woman to choose him to feel chosen, because he already chose himself. That's the highest form of attraction. That's what creates gravity. Not charm, not tactics. Presence, a man so rooted in who he is that nothing she does can shake it. That's why she remembers him. That's why she thinks about him in silence. Because he's not the kind of man who plays the game. He's the one who makes her realize she's been playing one her whole life. And now she's facing something she never expected, a man she can't manipulate, can't define, can't forget. He's not here to win her over. He's here to live truth, and truth doesn't chase, it attracts. So stop asking if she likes you. Start asking if you're showing up as the version of you that doesn't need the answer. Because the moment you do, the game flips. And in a world full of men who beg, bend, and break for approval, the man who remains unshaken is the one she never saw coming, and the one she'll never stop feeling long after he's gone.